Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Sunday, the 23rd day of Iyar, and last night we counted 38 days to the Omer. Let's begin with tzedakah, gedela tzedakah, shemekareves nasa geula. And today we begin chapter 51 in the Tanya. As you know, the first part of the Tanya has 53 chapters. And now this is these last three chapters of the first part of the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe goes back to explain the deeper meanings of doing the mitzvahs of action, fulfilling the mitzvahs, doing the actual mitzvahs, what Hashem asks of us to do. And he goes back to explain a portion from the Zohar that explains the spiritual meaning of that. And this is what the Zohar quotes from the Yenuka. We spoke this in chapter 35 in the Tanya. The Zohar quotes from the Yenuka. Yenuka is the child that had the godly spiritual revelations. And he said that a person should not walk, a man should not walk with the head uncovered. The reason being is because there's the Shekhinah, the divine presence that rests on his head. And his mind should be on the head, and the divine presence that is on the head. And then he says that this divine presence is like a light shining on his head. And the body is like a wick that holds this flame, but the flame needs also the oil. In order for the flame of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, to be on your head, the flame needs the oil. What is the oil? There's uvdin tavim, good deeds, mitzvahs, physical mitzvahs, mitzvahs of action. Why do we need mitzvahs to keep the flame? If we have a soul, the soul is also godly. And the answer is there's a difference between the godliness that the person, that even a tzaddik, that he has a godliness, there's the feelings of the spiritual feelings, the desire to be connected to Hashem. After all is said and done, even the greatest tzaddik is not like oil for a fire, meaning an oil is completely consumed in the fire. And every part of the oil becomes part of the fire. A tzaddik, even a greatest tzaddik, still he has a desire, he has his own self that wants to be connected with Hashem. A mitzvah, physical mitzvah on the other hand, is God's will. When you do the mitzvah, this is completely consumed in the fire of Hashem's will. But the Alter Rebbe is going now to explain further this concept. And he's going to explain why is the mitzvahs, why is the oil considered actual mitzvahs of action. Generally, in Hasidus teachings, oil represents something very, very high in level, like the Chachma, the wisdom, which is the highest level in the soul. Mitzvahs action is physical action, is the lowest level. So that's what Alter Rebbe is going to explain. But first, he's going to explain the whole idea when we're saying Hashem dwells, the divine presence dwells on the person. What is going to ask the question, what does it mean? Dwelling, God dwelling in a certain place. Isn't God everywhere? Everything is Hashem? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain this based on the understanding the way the soul dwells in the person. Because Hashem created man in the image of God. And it says, for my soul, for my flesh, I can see God. So by understanding the way the soul functions within the body, we can have an understanding the way Hashem dwells in this world. So let's see inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, chapter 51 in the Tanya. V'hinei, l'toisves biur loshna yenuka d'leil, for further explanation of the words of the Yenuka, mentioned earlier in chapter 35, where the Yenuka was quoted as saying that the light of the Shekhinah which dwells upon a Jew needs oil. What is the oil? Good deeds. Now, what connection do good deeds have with oil? Usually, oil is referred to Chachma, the wisdom. Says the Alter Rebbe, in order to understand this, we first need to explain the whole concept of the divine presence. What does it mean that Hashem dwells in one place more than another place? It is necessary first to explain, so that one may understand a little the concept of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, dwelling, that it dwelt in the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies says in the Holy Temple, the Hashem's dwelling was in the Holy of Holies. That is why this was one place. No one was allowed inside. Only the high priest, once a year, was able to enter the Holy of Holies, because this was where divine presence dwelt. What does that mean? And likewise, any other place where the Shekhinah dwells, what does this concept mean? For example, it says, when there is 10 Jews together, that's when you have the divine presence dwelling in this place. What does it mean? Isn't Hashem everywhere? God is everywhere. Surely the whole world is full of His glory, and no place is void of Him. Now, the Rebbe goes to explain by understanding the way the soul of human dwells within us, the way this functions, we can understand somewhat Hashem's dwelling in this world. However, the key to understanding the subject is to be found in the text, and from my flesh I see God. Now, the Rebbe understands these words literally. From what we see within ourselves, in our own soul and body, we can visualize the parallel on the spiritual level in the divine emanation and the world in general. As the Alter Rebbe, by way of analogy, the human soul pervades all 248 organs of the body from head to foot, from the highest part of the body to the lowest part of the body. The soul pervades the body to the extent that no organ or portion of it remains void of the soul. Every body is equally alive. The brain is just as alive as the nail. Nevertheless, the soul's principal abode in a revealed form, and the dwelling place in an all-encompassing, non-revealed form, is in one's brain. And from the brain, the soul is diffused throughout all the organs. He says, moreover, each organ receives from it, from the soul, a different form of life force and functional power appropriate to it according to its composition and character. So we have the soul that gives a general life is equally in all the organs, and yet there is the power from the soul that comes into the eyes to see, for example, into the ears to hear, into the hand to draw, to write. Each organ draws a certain type of energy that fits to its functions. So ayin lirois, the eye receives from the soul a life force and ability to see. The power of sight accords with the smooth and translucent nature of the tissue of the eye. The ear receives from the soul a life force and ability to hear, the mouth to speak, and the feet to walk. As we clearly sense how in the brain one is conscious of all that occurs within the 248 organs and of everything experienced by them, because the brain is the nerve center and principal abode and source of the life force of the entire body. So here, when you're talking about this energy that comes from the soul to each particular organ, obviously, as the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, that the soul itself does not have this divisions in itself. It's beyond the division between hearing and seeing. The divisions. It comes in the eye. It draws a certain part from the soul, a certain way, a type of energy. So you can look at it in different ways. Where does this division start? The division, the dividing of the particular forces, the particular powers that comes from the soul. You can look at it as, in one way, it's like let's say if you pour water in a cup, in a colored cup. So the color gives the water a certain shape, a certain color. So in that case, the cup gives the definition in the water. So you could say the same thing, that the eyes will give the energy that comes from the soul the particular shape and the particular form of what kind of energy comes, the energy of seeing. To use another analogy, if you have the electricity, does electricity make cold or does electricity make hot? And the answer is both. Electricity has a general power, and depending on the type of whatever you use, is the electricity used in an air conditioner or in a heater, whatever it comes, so then the electricity is being interpreted, and it comes in a form of, it gives you the heat, it gives you the cold. So the question is, where does this definition begin? And the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that although the soul is really indivisible, and it's beyond those definitions, nevertheless, we can't say that the particular forms of this soul power begins in the organs. Because if that is the case, then the brain wouldn't be able to sense and tell a difference between the organs. If only the organs form the shape, And the brain wouldn't be able, if you have a foot-ache, if the foot hurts or something is wrong with the eye, the brain wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So obviously there is something in the soul itself that in potential has the ability to be divided, even though the soul itself is beyond divisions, but it has the ability, it has the potential to be divided. Continues the Alter Rebbe. Ein shinui kabolas hakoiches ve'achayus shebe'evrei haguf min haneshama. Now the variation in receiving the functional powers and life force by the organs of the body from the soul, each organ, it says mitzad atzmo muhusa, receiving from the soul a life force and power in a different form does not derive from the soul's essence and being. But the different division is not from in the soul itself. That we should say that its being and essence is divided into 248 different parts, which are enclosed in the 248 locations. According to the design and various locations of the body's organ. That is obviously not the case. Why? Because the soul is beyond, the division is beyond physical space. Because according to this, it would follow that the soul's essence and being is designed in a physical design and a likeness and structure similar to the structure of the body, God forbid. Just as the organs of the body have various shapes and forms, so according to this outlook, are the functional powers, while still within the soul, different from each other in form. But again, we cannot accept this, because the soul is beyond, it's indivisible. Elokula etzem echod ruchni. Rather, the soul is entirely a single spiritual entity. It is one, a single entity, and two, a spiritual entity. As a single entity, its oneness is plain and uncompounded. As a spiritual entity, its spirituality is in a form which is divested of any physical design and of any type of definition of physical space, measure, or limitation. The soul is free of all such dimensions by its virtue of its intrinsic being and essence. In fact, the soul is so plain and free of all of these that even when it is actually enclosed within the organs, they cannot affect any changes within the soul. Therefore, Alter Rebbe continues, so therefore, when talking about the soul, says Alter Rebbe, you can't say that it's in the brain more than it's in the feet. And it is void, it is not valid to say concerning the soul's being and essence that it is in the brain of the head more than in the feet. Why? Since its being and essence is not subject to the concept of dimension of physical space and limitation. It is therefore impossible to attribute to the soul this limitation of being more in the head than in the feet. However, then what is it? Where does the division begin? There are, within the soul, there are potential powers that is included within the soul. כשתייג מיני כוחו זה חיוס כלולים בו במאוסו ועצמוסו לא צייס אל הפועל והגילו מהאלם. Rather, it says that 613 kinds of functional powers and vital forces are included within the soul, within its being and essence, to become actualized and to emerge from this concealment and inclusion within the soul's essence. So previously, while still included within the soul's essence, they are only in potentia and therefore hidden within the soul, not even as functional powers, which are revealed as such while still included within the soul. In other words, within the soul is concealed a potential for 613 functional powers to become actualized and to emerge from concealment, to become revealed. And this has the potential to vitalize the 248 organs and 365 veins by way of the intermediary soul, and that is the vital soul. says the Alter Rebbe La'achir, Zra Machi Varom Shasa Gidim Shebaguf Al Yidei Islapshusa B'Nefesh HaChiyunis Sheyesh Lo Gam Ken Ramach V'Shasa Koich HaZorchayis Halalu. In order to animate the 248 organs and 365 blood vessels of the body through the functional powers of the divine soul, becoming enclosed within the animating or vital soul, which also possesses the corresponding 248 and 365 functional powers and vital forces. So concerning these functional powers, as they are drawn and revealed from the soul into the body, the Alter Rebbe will now explain that the principal location to which they are drawn and when they are revealed is the brain. It is from there that the potential powers spread to all other organs of the body. But the essence of the soul exists equally in the foot, just as in the brain. So this is the beginning of the explanation. And there's one of the great Hasidim, Rabbi Shlomo once said that before he started learning Hasidus, he looked at the body as a very low thing, something to be loathsome. It's the source of many troubles. But when he learned in the Hasidus and he understood what it says, that from my flesh I can see God and I can appreciate godliness, the way Hashem functions through understanding the body, he got a whole new appreciation for the body itself. So this is the end of today's shir, and we shall continue tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.